This comes to us from the Metro, UK. Switch 2 owner banned for playing secondhand Switch 1 games. Now, this story goes way deeper than I initially thought it was. I'm like, how can you get banned for playing a secondhand used game? And in the details of this, you find out that Nintendo basically, if you get a MiG switch and you rip the copy of your game onto your MiG, and then you play that copy on your MiG on your Switch, it basically connects to the internet, sends a notice to Nintendo that that code or whatever that was copied has been used on that card. And then if you try to play that card, it will detect that a duplicate was made because now that card is being played after it was played on something else, which tells Nintendo that you are using a MiG switch and that that copy is not authorized. Again, that is the Cliff Notes version, and I'm probably got a lot of stuff wrong on it, but that's basically what's happening as far as I understand it. And now people are finding out that you can copy those games onto a MiG switch, play the MiG switch on your Switch 2, sell your physical copy of your game to a secondhand store like GameStop or whatever, have someone go in and buy that copy, put it like legitimately purchase it with real money at a real store and pay taxes on it and everything, put it into your Switch 2 and get banned from Nintendo because it detects that that serial number is being used or was used somewhere else duplicated. And now you get in trouble for it. The games in question weren't even Switch 2 titles. New concerns have arisen over Nintendo's strict policies over how you use the Switch 2. Although, for the moment, it does seem like there's a solution. Nintendo gets away with a lot of negative consumer practices purely because their games and consoles are so popular. But there's already been concern about their ability to put the Switch 2 permanently offline if you use mod carts, which are often used for playing pirated games, but not always. That's the problem Nintendo faces with this. And legally, they have no jurisdiction to do what they're doing. I have a feeling if this went all the way to federal court, that Nintendo would actually lose it because they do not have the right to tell people what they're allowed to play based off of the games that they're ripping on the device that they purchased. They're trying to act like, no, this is their ecosystem. You're not allowed to do that. It's like, no, I bought the device. It's mine. I can do whatever the hell I want to do with it. And you're no one to tell me I'm not pirating games. I'm ripping them myself and playing them because I want to be able to play them all on one cart instead of having to carry around 20 of my games around. Who's Nintendo to tell me otherwise? I can do whatever the hell I want. I fucking own it. What are we doing here? What the hell? Since when do they have control over my purchase after I give them money? No, that's not how this works. And if they're trying to say, no, it is how it works, then that's basically them saying that they are enabling piracy, that you are welcome to steal whatever you want because you technically don't own what you buy from them, if that's what they're saying. So they're actually encouraging more people to try to pirate from them. It's very frustrating to take this approach, but then again, it's Nintendo. Is anyone really that surprised? Nintendo apparently realized they were secondhand when he attempted to download patches for them. This one, I skipped it here. Now a different problem has arisen from a Switch 2 owner that claims he was banned for using secondhand Switch 1 games that he bought from a Facebook marketplace. Nintendo apparently realized they were secondhand when he attempted to download patches for them. When he started them up on the Switch 2, at this point, he claims he was banned. While it's not something that's been widely reported by others, it does raise obvious concerns for the future. According to Demanthy on Reddit, they were able to unban themselves after speaking to Nintendo support, showing them the Facebook listings and photos of the cartridges. What exactly Nintendo thought was going on is unclear, since it's hardly unusual to sell secondhand games. but they likely believed they were pirated games, which seems to be their main concern at the moment. Yeah, because it probably was copied onto, it's probably ripped, copied onto someone's Big Switch, and then they sold their copy of the game. Which, oh, by the way, here's the conundrum Nintendo has with that too, is that how does Nintendo know that they ripped it onto their MiG Switch, and then after they sold their game, they're like, well, I sold it, I don't own it anymore, I'm going to delete it from my MiG Switch. Nintendo doesn't know. You could be following all the laws, doing everything properly, appropriately. I'm not saying everyone does this, by the way, but giving someone the benefit of the doubt of being an upstanding citizen, just wants to do the right thing. And they're getting piled in with everyone else because Nintendo has full authority for this. And they shouldn't. Groofus says, Nintendo getting into construction, selling all these bricks. Although Nintendo is pushing digital downloads more with the Switch 2 than other previous consoles, which, by the way, true. I went to Target tonight after dinner, and I was like, oh, let me go look at the Switch aisle, and I want to see what it looks like with the Switch 2 games. And it was terrible. Like, every Switch 2 game had the DLC code banner on the front of it. I'm like, why would anyone buy any of these? What's the point of it? Just go download the game if you want to play it. And at that point, I'm not going to spend $80 on a downloadable title on my Switch 2. Like, no, who's doing this? Give me the physical, give me the game, give me everything with it, or you're not getting my money. That's kind of always been the way. The only way around that is if, say, Rockstar and Take-Two put out Grand Theft Auto 6 digital only and sold that game without a disc in it. I would probably still buy it because I really would want to play that game. But there are like exceptions to every rule where it's like most games, like if Nintendo did that with the next Zelda game and the next Mario, probably do it with those too. Even though I wouldn't like it, I would do it. But for the most part, all these other games, like, no, I'm not going to do that. Why? Physical game sales are still much more prevalent on Nintendo formats than PlayStation and Xbox, which is true. But that's only because the other ones are really low, not because Nintendo's are really high. That means secondhand games are commonplace, and while traditional piracy is relatively rare on Nintendo consoles, fake cartridges are still easily found on eBay and other online sources. While the mod cart that Nintendo has already banned is the sort of thing used to download pirated games. The long-standing problem is that Nintendo games are rarely discounted by Nintendo or retailers, and so secondhand games are vital for many fans in order to be able to afford all the games they want. If Nintendo starts banning everyone for simply playing a secondhand game, then there's going to be chaos online. But hopefully they realize the issues before. It's almost like this article doesn't understand what actually happened, because I don't think it's two different consoles playing the same cart. I could be misunderstanding this, but I don't think that's the issue, because you could have multiple Switches at your house swapping carts with each other. You can lend a cart to your friend. I wouldn't imagine you getting your console banned for that. What I'm thinking happened is whoever sold that game cart ripped it first, and they had it their copy of it on a MiG Switch, and then it was telling Nintendo that it was being played or was played on two different carts. Regardless, the UK support page is here and the US support page is here. According to DManthi, he simply started a live chat with a human and they were able to get him unbanned straight away. Although naturally, you don't want to be doing that every time you buy a new secondhand game, which again, I don't think is going to happen every time. I think it's more for the unique cases of people that ripped it onto a MiG Switch and then dumped it and then sold the game, which is still going to be happening, by the way. And the greater concern is the greater concern. And what I mean by that is, like, now people are going to be hesitant to even buy Switch 2 games used, which Nintendo probably doesn't care because they just want to sell the game the first time. But that also impacts the customer, because now their game that they own is not valued as much on the secondhand market because of what Nintendo's doing to scare buyers away from buying used games. Not great. Not great. And this is Reddit talking about it. Switch 2 owner banned for playing secondhand Switch 1 games. So if I buy used games from GameStop that happen to be copied to a MiG, I'm just effed. Guy doesn't know what a MiG is. It's a cartridge that fakes Switch 1 into thinking it's a legit cartridge. People can load an SD card on the MiG with game copies. So it's R4 from the DS? Yes, basically. And the risk here is you might buy a legitimate used game that someone has dumped and shared online. If Nintendo sees two Switches playing the same copy, this is what I was saying, of the same game at the same time, they ban both consoles. I don't think it even has to be at the same time, by the way. I think that Nintendo has a system formula set up where it registers one of the serial numbers and has some way of knowing that it's been duplicated. Somehow there's some sort of proprietary code that they understand that once it gets duplicated, that it reflects somehow on their system, and then it bans both consoles and anyone who plays a copy of that game from then on. Actually, you need to fear employees of stores like GameStop more than the normal gamer. A kid working at GameStop has more access to used games and can dump games on their MiG in the back office on their break. Good point. No need to buy or trade them in. They just cart dump it and dump it. But they do it for their managers too. I never thought of that. That's totally something that could happen. And probably does. I didn't even enter my mind. That's crazy. Yeah, because you can buy the MiG cart dump machine separately. I know it was hard to get, but they have it where you just plug the card in and it just dumps it, and then it saves it to a folder, and then you can put your MiG switch in and then drag it over and drop it onto the Switch. Yep, they're forcing everyone to rethink if they should buy a secondhand game or give Nintendo more money. Because on the off chance it's copied to your MiG, your $450 console is bricked. This is already not needed considering Switch 2 can already differentiate MiGs from real copies. They just punishing people for buying secondhand games at this point, in my humble opinion, which, yeah, chance of buying secondhand copy cartridges probably less than 0.1%, which I'd say, yeah, it's probably low. Many people pointed out 5% is a lot, which I know, but I just put up a random number because percentage is not my point. Fact that buying secondhand games have a non-zero chance of breaking a $450 console, but it would push a lot of users into buying new copies. Console banning in the Switch 2 is way heavier than Switch 1, considering Switch 2 is more than twice the price of Switch 1. In my country, I could buy 3 Switch Lites and a game for one Switch 2 console, and game key cards that only started on Switch 2 because Nintendo refused to make smaller cartridges need internet. And a pretty banger reply here. Easy. Don't give Nintendo your money. You don't need that $450 game console. You'll live. Can confirm. Didn't buy a Switch 2. Am still alive. Counterpoint. My grandmother didn't buy a Switch 2, and she died. And Jeffrey Epstein also didn't buy a Switch 2. And we all know what happened to him. I mean, he's probably in witness protection playing a Switch 2 right now, watching me, looking up and smiling. to be fair. But yes, the Switch 2 is a mess of a situation. I'll tell you guys straight up, my experience with it in so far is I enjoy it for what it is. It's not a groundbreaking console. It's not going to blow your socks off when you start playing it, but it does exactly what it advertised. And honestly, for me, I play my original Switch so much that my hands cramped with it. And it's like, I have big hands. So my biggest motivation to get a Switch 2 was bigger controller, bigger screen. I'm happy as a clam with that. But for people that are just like, nah, I don't really play my Switch anymore. I play just PC now or something like that. Then it's not necessary. And I think Nintendo probably knows that. And they should probably be very concerned because I have a feeling that this is something that the way that they're treating their customers, it's just turning people away in droves. And when they all leave, they're going to have no one to blame but themselves. But anyways, I'll leave that one there.